Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Arnold Nerenberg, licensed to practice clinical psychology in the state of California since 1974. So I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I like to say I've been licensed to walk upon this earth since 1941 when I was issued my birth certificate. I want to tell you that it's truly a pleasure, a privilege to be here with you and have this opportunity to share with you insights, lessons, and inspirations of a lifetime, with the intention of uplifting you and your loved ones for the rest of your lives. That's my intention. The title of today's presentation is, I Choose to Wish You Well. I choose to wish you well. I've given titles before, and I wish you well. Today I made it I choose to wish you well, and I'm going to explain why. Part of the whole way of honor is following the 4 commandments of honor, which I'll go to in a minute. But sometimes people have offended you so badly, it's hard to wish them well. I don't want to wish them well. I'm too hurt. I'm too angry. So I developed what I call a shield penetrator, which was, I want to wish you well. And that works as well. So if you can't wish somebody well, you can go, I want to wish you well. By wishing people well, we're cleansing ourselves. I'm just about the thought. I'm not even talking about saying it to somebody. Just thinking to myself, I wish you well, or I want to wish you well. Now I've changed it to, I choose to wish you well. As a third alternative you have. The main one is I wish you well, but we have 2 derivatives. I want to wish you well, and I choose to wish you well. So that's about the 4 commandments of honor. Then we're going to talk about what it means that you're choosing to do this. 4 commandments of honor are, I wish you well, I take full responsibility for co-creating my reality and my problems, I'm grateful for the power I gain from hardship. Then one of 2 depends whether you believe in God or not. If you believe in God as I do, God, your wish is my only wish. If a person doesn't believe in God or doesn't want to address God, it's, I seek always to serve my highest values. Commandments of honor work synergistically with each other. They reinforce and empower each other. Let me explain how. So if you want to wish somebody well, it's harder to do that if you're blaming them for the problem. Whatever problem you're having, if you blame them for the problem, it's harder to wish them well. But if you say, you know what, when you think to yourself, I co-created this. I take full responsibility for co-creating this, my reality and my problem. And this is how I co-created. He started the problem, but I added to it in this way. Well, once we take responsibility, not to beat ourselves up or feel ashamed or guilty, but just to be honest about it, and that's honor demands that. Now it's easier to wish the person well because you don't just see it as their fault. You're not just doing the blaming, so it makes it easier. Now, whatever the person did to you might have caused you harm and suffering. So when you go, I'm grateful for the power I gained from hardship. Well, you did this to me, but I learned a very powerful lesson. And I'm grateful for the power I gained from the hardship. I'm grateful for that lesson. It makes me wiser. It makes it a little easier to then wish the person well. They work synergistically. Or you go, well, God, your wish is my only wish. And I feel, well, God will want me to wish him. Well, that's what ties together. Or I seek always to serve my highest values. Well, my values are to be a well-wisher, to take the high road. Whatever the highest values are, I take the high road and I wish you well. So they work synergistically. Now let's take, of course I'm talking about wishing somebody well. That doesn't necessarily mean you hope they win the lottery. It could mean that. But it could also mean, I really hope you repent and improve yourself and turn to a more honorable life. That's wishing a person well. So it can have that meaning. It's not just you wish they hope they win the lottery, they get what they want in life, but that they repent to become better people, take responsibility for their lives, and move in an honorable direction. Now, this is how they work synergistically. So let's say you're getting a thought, this person, it's not the first time they've said it, I just want to tell them off, I want to slap them on the face. And I wish you well, or I choose to wish you well. I'm going to present to you a very, very important question, very important question. When you get the thought, I just want to tell this person off, I just want to slap him in the face. And I know for a fact that these thoughts are not healthy for us when we get them. Anger, very a problem for the cardiovascular system, not good for our health. But we get those thoughts. But you didn't choose it. We didn't choose to get angry. We didn't say, I want to get really angry at him. Yeah. No, you just got angry. What I want to say to you is the thoughts that pop into your mind do not define who you are. You're more of a reflection of thought you choose, and I want to demonstrate that. So let's say I choose to wish you well. Here's the question. This is huge. And by the way, the thought of I'm so angry at you, feel offended and humiliated and hurt, and I want to just slap you, that's a stronger thought. That negativity is stronger than the positive thought, I wish you well, I choose to wish you well, or I want to wish you well. Much stronger in the short term. But the whole thing is to not fight that negative thought. We didn't choose it. It's not your fault. You're having it. You're just balancing it. You just let that be and just balancing it with I wish you well, or I choose to wish you well, or I want to wish you well. Balancing. You let the negative be, or you let the positive be. And by doing that, you'll find the negativity comes less often. The negativity will come less often. But here's the question. Somebody might say, how can I wish him well? I can't stand him. I'm so angry. What reflects who you are more? The thought that popped in your mind that you didn't choose, you're not responsible for, or the thought you chose? What defines you more? The thought just popped involuntarily in your mind that you didn't particularly want or call upon? That thought or the thought you're choosing? Which is more of a reflection of who you are? I would say you're more a reflection of the thought you choose. I would say you're a well-wisher. You didn't choose that negative feeling. You didn't choose that negative thought. How could you say that defines you more than a thought you did choose? I realize the feeling is stronger. But how can you say that? One thought you didn't choose, you're not responsible for, and one thought you did. One thought you didn't choose, one thought you did choose. I say that we're a reflection. I say we're more a reflection of the thought we choose to have. I choose to wish you well. We don't deny I felt this anger, it popped in my mind, that's there, but I choose to wish you well. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That is freedom. That is freedom. That is true freedom. You're no longer defined by your involuntary responses, your conditioning, the genetics, the family upbringing, societal norms. That doesn't define the unique, beautiful human being that you are. That's not really the definition of you. You're free to choose your thought that defines you. I choose to wish you well. Who are you? You're a well-wisher. Somebody said, well, you're really an angry person. I'm not an angry person. Angry thought come to me, yeah, but I didn't choose it. I'm a well-wisher. Think about that. It's a paradigm shift. This is a paradigm shift. You're actually free to choose your own reality. I choose to wish you well. I felt humiliated, disrespected, humiliated. It's all there. I did have the feeling I wanted to slap you, but I didn't choose any of that. I choose to wish you well. Wow. Now, I'm not saying you're going to feel great from that. You might. Just want you to know who you are and who you're not. Who you are and who you're not. That's freedom. Otherwise, you're a slave to circumstance. Somebody walking across the street, says something, curses at you across the street, might be psychotic, the person, and you're so, why are you talking to me? Well, that's a slave. You're a slave to who's ever going by. Somebody cuts you off and you want to go flip them off and beep at them. You didn't even choose that. Yeah, I choose to wish you well. This takes you from slavery to freedom. From slavery to freedom. From bondage to freedom. You're no longer held as a slave to your societal conditioning, your genes, family upbringing. You're no longer a slave to that. It's still there. It's still operating. I'm not saying it still has its effect. But it no longer defines who we are. Everybody wants freedom. America, we love our freedom. But without this, people are not truly free. Not really. To be truly free, for this to be the land of the free, that means we're free to choose our reality. We're free to choose our reality. I choose to wish you well. Sure, I want to slap you. I have some of that going on. But I didn't choose that. I choose to wish you well. So without lying to ourselves, we're just saying that doesn't define me. Total paradigm shift from bondage to true freedom, to real, true liberty in the deepest sense of the word. I mean, it's a revolution in thought. Free at last. Not defined by our genetics, our family upbringing, societal norms. We have that within us, but we're not defined by it. Well, it's been my pleasure to present to you. I choose to wish you well, and I want to open it up for discussion amongst our distinguished panel. Start off with Stacy. Anything you want to ask or say?
Hi, Doctor. How are you?
Hey, Stacy. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, my thoughts on this are the choice. It really is a choice to choose how we're gonna respond to situations, especially negative situations, or anything that can really set your mood. And I've been learning a lot about this personally, trying to defend myself with that kind of a thought process, and as a defense, like literally, like as a defense. In my normal defensiveness, I'm not the nicest. I could be, I could not respond to their.
Well, let me interrupt for 1 second. So it's a choice. We can't help that those thoughts pop in our minds, but does not define ourselves. That's not a choice. That comes into our mind. But as you say, we have the choice to balance it with the thought of our choosing, which, and the path of honor would be an honorable thought, such as I choose to wish you well. Exactly so. Now, what were you going on to say, Stacy?
Yeah, and I was just saying that that's been helpful to me to use that as a defense mechanism, right, rather than resort to responding to basically the vulnerability. When you teach us to respond to someone's vulnerability, that is kind of like, in a way, putting myself in their shoes, or trying to find a way to balance out the situation.
Well, here's the thought, Stacy, is this, that we could be flooded with emotion from this, but we could choose to have the thought, I love you. There are people who are in love with each other, love each other, and then they turn each other. They say some most horrible things to each other. Well, a person might feel deeply offended by their significant other, but at the same time have the thought, I love you. Yeah, I'm definitely having a hard time right now, but I love you. And that's a choice. We don't have to lose contact with those we love if we're committed to the way of honor, which is a totally constructive way. We don't deny that we feel hurt, we felt neglected, abandoned. We may have to have a conversation with somebody about some of the other dynamics of the hurt, the humiliation, the misunderstanding. There may be a conversation that's needed. However, we are going, I love you, or I wish you well. We could actually choose these thoughts. And very powerful. I love what you're saying. Anything else you want to say about that or ask about that?
No, that's all. Thank you, Doctor.
No, thank you. Bernice, anything you want to ask or say about this concept that's been presented?
I just want to say how freeing the concept has been for me, and actually putting it into practice. I notice it happening on a daily basis, and for me, I don't know if anyone else can relate, but it tends to like come to me in like past situations where like I'm like, man, that person really made me mad. Like it's just like a random thought that, kind of like that monkey brain working, where it's just like random thoughts.
Wow, monkey brain is a good term. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I was like, oh my goodness, and that's what meditation is supposed to be about, to kind of calm it down. But I've also experienced the I wish you well, because it stops the thought process. It stops the circular, like, oh man, I hate that person, I really want revenge, or, like, they really made me mad. And particularly with, like, one manager, like, I was so angry with him, I was like, I want to mess up his car, like, all these different things when I, before the program.
Yeah, normal thoughts. Those are normal thoughts that will pop in your mind. Absolutely, absolutely. 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 Yeah.
And being able to let it go a lot sooner than, like, because I could think about these negative thoughts for as long as my brain would.
Let me interrupt you right there, because you're making such wonderful points. In one massive study at the University of Maryland, they found that 80% of people's thoughts are negative, 80%. And that 95% of those thoughts are recurring thoughts. So that's the reality of the negativity that comes upon us. But we can then make this choice, and you find it freeing. And that's what I wanted you to be able to find it freeing. Tell me about how you found it freeing.
I find it freeing because that's really good to, like, know those numbers. So, like, more than half of our thoughts are
80%.
Negative. 80%, that's high. And so, to know that, it makes you realize I'm human and these thoughts are going to happen. I don't necessarily choose them. Like I said, it's monkey brain. And so when I do get into this cycle, I notice it's shorter. So, like, I wish you well.
Very good. It is a shorter cycle, and the negativity comes back less often. That does happen. But I always want to tell everybody, do not try to overpower your negative thinking. Don't get in an argument with yourself. Don't feel guilty about the negative thoughts. Just let it be. Balance it. Just add, I love you, or I wish you well, or I choose to wish you well, or I choose to love you. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, the I wish you well definitely, like, it grounds me back in, like, the honorable person I want to be, and then it just shuts all that down.
Wow. That's so powerful. That's so powerful.
Yeah, it's like a reminder, like, okay, don't, you know what I mean? Like, and also, like, I feel like it just only hurts me.
That's right. The anger that you walk around with. Now, what I want to tell you, this is a very important point I want to tell you. Most people say the most important moment is this moment now. They say, learn from the past, plan for the future. The most important moment is now. I don't totally agree with that, and I'll tell you why. I say the most important moment is the past, because the future's not here. The present is fleeting. The past is what we carry with us. So the key in life is to live this moment now to create the best possible past, because this moment now will be the past right away. So you try to create a good past because it's the past. You think about people say, oh, why are you still dwelling on it? That's in the past. Well, I go, what are you talking about? It's all we have is the past. The moment is fleeting. The future's not here. We just have the past. So what we can do is tell ourselves the best true story about the past. Whatever horrible thing happened, you can say, well, it was a terrible thing that happened, which it was, but here's the good that came out of it. So the bad story about the past is true, but it's only half the story. The other half of the story is the good things that came out of it. And it's always there. Always, always there. Always there. I like to tell the story about that roughneck that came to my office, a big, powerful looking guy, worked in the oil fields. He says, Doc, he looked like he wanted to cry. He said, Doc, I lost everything. My wife left me. She left me for another man. She took my kids. I didn't even know where they are. I was so stressed out. I couldn't make the payments on my house. I lost my house. I lost everything, Doc. So that was the past. I couldn't change the past. But I said, here's what I tell you. I said, that's horrible. First, that's a terrible, terrible thing for any human being to go through. I said, what if I told you there's a thought, a finishing of that story that will add dignity, nobility, and honor to your life? He looked at me and said, wow, tell me what is that? I said, okay, here it is. I lost everything, but I gained myself. His face just lightened up here. I've gained myself. I've lost everything, but I've gained myself. He walked out floating and went to my secretary and said, you know, I've lost everything, but I've gained myself. Didn't have his children, his wife, or the house, but he gained himself. So the bad story was there. I mean, it's a horrible bad story. Losing your wife to another man, losing your children, losing your house. That's a horrible story, true. But it's only half the story. So people say the past is over. It's not over. You can change how you look at it. So in a sense, you can change your past by finishing the story. So I say the most important moment is the past. And so when you hear somebody say, why are you dwelling in the past? Why don't you just let that go? Well, to let it go, you might need a conversation with somebody. You certainly have to ask, what's the best true story I can tell about it, so you're completing it. But that idea of, that's over. That was over 10, 20 years ago. Why are you going to let it go? Well, when a person can tell the best true story about it, they're more likely to let it go. Or if they can have a conversation and talk to somebody, they can let it go. So the past is very, very real. Very real. And that's against the current thought. The current thought is, you know, certainly there's a lot to be said for the present. One of the laws of honor is I'm here now, right now, enjoy the moment. That's lovely to be present, see beauty, feel the love. It's great. On a moment-to-moment basis, your past is what matters the most to you. Now that's a new thought. That's totally against the grain of what people preach now, but that's reality. Yeah, you were saying, Brittany?
Yeah. To mention that, you know, a lot of our memories tend to go to the past, and I think a lot of people can feel shame about that because it's like, why are you living in the past? Yeah, we've all heard that, like, you know, don't do that, but our past makes up so much of who we are.
Well, it's totally who we are. Just keep in mind, this second now, it's already passing. It's already the past. All we have is the past with one cutting-edge present. All we have is the past. So to say to somebody, don't live in the past, is to say, what are you talking about? That's all there is. Where am I going to live?
Yeah.
So it took me a long time because I was always one of these things about being present, being in the moment. It's good to be in the moment and see what's here and be alive to the moment. That's a good thing. But the past is what we walk around with on a day. As you're going around, you're driving in your car or you're getting up in the morning, the past will be coming to your mind.
I like the way you put it, though, because you're saying it in reference to, like, you know, live like you want to be able to look in the past and be proud of it. You know what I mean? So
Live the present moment, exactly. Live the present moment so that your past will be as good as possible. Because you're going to live with your past.
Exactly, I like that.
Good. Very good, very good, Benicia. So welcome, and thank you for your very valuable contributions, as always. Christy, do you have anything you want to add or say?
Hey, Dr. Nerenberg.
Hey, Christy.
really have a lot of the same thoughts as Bernice. You know, I think in the moment when a situation occurs, you know, your natural inclination is to either react or close up and not react. But there are so many times that I spend reflecting on certain situations, and I think about ways in which I could have reacted differently or said something that was more productive than maybe what I had said. And so I think it's really important about what you shared about the past, present, and future. But the way that I've been applying the commandment is if negative thoughts pop into my head and I start to really stew over.
That's a good word, stew, on it. Entertain it and stew. A good word, good word.
Yeah, what happened in that moment, I come back to the fact that it's a waste of time. I can't change it. I wish that person well, and I move on. And so it's just, I've been applying it as a way to help me, I guess, change the negative into a positive by just moving forward.
Well, let me reframe that a little bit. You don't try to change the negative to positive. The negative is real. Whatever problem you have with that person, that was real. The person may have been disrespectful, obnoxious, whatever. That's real. Don't try to change that. That's true. Balance it. Yeah, I wish you well, or I love you if you love the person, or I wish you well, or I choose to wish you well. Or you know what? You said what you did. It was hurtful, but you know, I learned my lesson. However you want to go with that. Sometimes the people that hurt us the most teach us the best lessons. They may not know that, they may not have intended that, but they'll teach you a lot about yourself and about society. I can think of an example with myself. A friend and I were at Venice Beach. We rented bikes. We're riding along, and this guy, he looked like a gangbanger type. So he's with his little daughter, about 3 years old. He got her across the street, and he said, "Yeah, you got to watch out for those blah blah blah," saying something bad about us. And my friend said to her, "What did you say?" He said, "You heard me." At the time, I had these fantasies that wanted to just get out and just really punch the guy or do something. And I had those fantasies for a while. We didn't take it any further. But you know what? And we didn't get close to him or his daughter. It was way ahead. But here's what I want to say about it. I never forgot it. So now when I'm on my motorcycle or I'm in my car, and somebody, he was maybe 10 or 15 feet, maybe 15 feet in front of us, I give people a lot of leeway. So if somebody's going to cross out, I give them extra space now when they're crossing. I'll say way back so they don't feel like I'm encroaching it, even possibly encroaching. And I always think that he was my teacher. So that's the rest of that story. This guy that really I had violent fantasies about really changed my behavior on the road. Really did. I really leave people more space. I feel good about myself, how I am. It's sort of extra courtesy, extremely courteous, on extreme courtesy. And that's more honorable. Again, we in no way endanger them at that time, but I give that extra space. And I think of him a lot of times when I'm doing it, and I'm really thankful for that. So I don't get violent fantasies anymore. But I have this, he was my teacher. He didn't mean to be my teacher. He was just getting insulting. But he was my teacher. So that was finishing that story up. What we can learn from these things. That's one way of resolving it. Very powerful way.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying too is important. There are a lot of teachable moments in that regard. I remember a few weeks ago, there was a situation. I was at the park, and there was a situation that didn't involve me. I was just seeing something take place. There was a guy that was
yelling at an elderly lady. He was across the street, and she was on the park side where I was as I was leaving, and he was yelling at her, but because he thought he observed something that he was inaccurate. And the reason why I say that is because I was closer to her and witnessed something that he was accusing her for. But instead of him trying to be productive or be a grown-up, he chose to act like a complete jerk, and he was screaming obscenities at her. And as I was walking, she was very rattled, and I told her, I said, you know what? I said, because her natural inclination was to respond to him the way that he was responding to her. And I mentioned to her, I said, you know what? I observed everything. Just wish the guy well. Just give him a positive, send him a positive. And she was like, gosh, I wish I could. But, I think the situation was, just angered her, of course, because she's having this guy being very obnoxious, very disrespectful.
So what was the outcome? That's a very interesting situation. She wasn't able to do it, or she did?
By the time that I approached her and was talking to her, he left.
Okay.
And so it was just she and I talking as I was leaving the park, and she said that it happened frequently with this same person.
Oh.
And so I said, well, next time just wish him well.
Yeah,
So hope, I don't know, I never saw her after that. I would be interested to see if she had a similar encounter, but it was, it was just me trying to, share a little.
well, that's good. You're bringing the honor movement to the people. That's honor to the people. That's you're one of the leaders in the movement. Excellent, Christy. As she said, I wish I could. See, that's where she could go. Tell herself that I'm choosing to wish him well. I want to wish him well, and just say, I wish you well. But she's just choosing to do that, even though that's not the natural reaction. And by not natural, I mean it's not the reaction where we've been conditioned to do by society, our family, or our genetics. Good. That's well said. Well said, Christy. Thank you.
Thanks, Doctor.
Does anybody else want to say anything or ask anything?
I thought this was kind of interesting when you're like, I choose to wish you well, because yes, there's been a situation over the past few months where I even feel like, yes, I feel like I choose to wish you well, but I also choose to not wish you well. Or, just other thoughts, or even when you said don't feed on the thoughts, it's almost like I want to feed on the thoughts just to kind of allow my mind to vent.
Well, that's a good point. What I'm saying is, I never will say don't feed on the thought. Knock yourself out. Whatever bad things you want to say, go on as long as you want. And then after you finish, you go, and I wish you well. Go on, knock yourself out. I don't tell people not to do that, because I don't think most people can help it anyway. Just make sure you finish it with, I wish you well, or I choose to wish you well.
I want to choose to wish the person well.
Okay, I want to choose to wish you well. All right, okay, I hear you. Well, that goes. Okay, I want to wish you well. I want to choose to wish you well. That's a step in the right direction. That's a step in the right direction.
No, but I just, just refrain and just keep silence to work through it. Just because I know in due time, goodness and only goodness will surface. And I mean, that's all I can really do. It's like,
well, let me interject a thought there, Tracy. People say that.
I used to wish him well, but
Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, people say time heals all wounds. No, you could have something bother you for 50 years whenever you think about it. You need some kind of resolution. Now, if you never see the person, you may forget, some small things. But generally, if something bothers you a lot, generally you need to be able to resolve it. Either have a conversation with the person, or be able to tell yourself the best true story about the problem, or be grateful for the lessons and wisdom that you gain from it. You need to go to some kind of resolution. Generally, I wouldn't say time heals all wounds. Maybe. No, I mean, maybe society, as a society, may forget certain injustices that happened 1,000 years ago, whatever. But time doesn't in itself heal it typically. So, because I want to interject that, I think this act of working it out, balancing with honorable thoughts, finding the best true story, these are ways of really getting some kind of closure, completion. But I hear you. I mean,
That's all I wanted to share.
well, thanks. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for being here while you're in Mexico. Very good. Thank you. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. It's been my pleasure to present to you, I Choose to Wish You Well.
The sea of destiny is in your deepest struggle. God's will and mine be one, and I wish you well. You are co-creator, respectfully real. There's a way in the valley that turns weakness to steel. We're known through all eternity. From strife we gain power, clothed in grace and love, disciples of honor. All the days of our lives refuse the way of shame. We wish nobody harm, have no one to blame. Your high calling will be done, and pure eyes now glow. In darkness crave the good, like waters from the desert flow. I pledge my love all the days of my life. I pledge my soul to all that is good. I pledge my heart to my brothers and sisters, who I join in the light, leave a legacy of honor. We're known through all eternity. From strife we gain power, clothed in grace and love, disciples of honor. All the days of our lives refuse the way of shame. We wish nobody harm, have no one to blame. Your high calling will be done, and pure eyes now glow. In darkness crave the good, like waters from the desert flow.